Hello, welcome back to Foot in the Shed, first video that I'm making in 2019, so hope you had a good Christmas and a Happy New Year. And just going to knock this one together. It's a bit rough and ready, but basically I've got a few issues now with my little CRT SS9900 there. Got a couple of things that's sort of wrong with this radio, or seems to be affecting it. First thing is something to do with the power supply or the power lead to the radio. Every now and then I'll be using the radio and suddenly the radio just cuts out, it just loses all power, display goes off, and then it sort of comes back on again. Normally happens when sort of you're transmitting. If you reduce power on the radio, that seems to help it slightly. So I've already had a quick kind of go at fixing that. I'll explain that a little bit later when I'm going to put the radio on the bench and we'll have a proper look. But I've already removed one of the connectors in the power lead that I noticed was getting a little bit warm, but still haven't cured that entirely. Although, to be fair, since I sort of played about with this radio on the sort of watts and amps test videos, it's actually been a lot better. But then I've got a second problem, which probably isn't related to the radio. It's probably something to do with the sort of antenna setup, in the respect that I was on the 305 this morning and the radio just kept cutting out and I was getting a high SWR reading. I've had this before, and the first time I had this I managed to trace it to the little cheap Chinese switch box that I have inside the shed, that is the main switch box that you know, diverts the kind of the antenna pickup to all the different sort of setups I've got around the house. So it could be that the switch box maybe has got damp, or maybe it's got a little bit of corrosion or is failing. And then the second time it was the Antron 99 itself which needed a bit of a service. It turned out to be the spring washers that had corroded between the connections. I made a video on that, but I brought it down and basically sort of you know, removed the spring washers, cleaned everything up, used some of that amalgamation sort of rubberized tape, and that's been absolutely fine since then. There was a bit of water in that antenna at the time, and I enlarged the drain hole. It's maybe possible, as we're now in winter and we've had quite a bit of rain sort of over the last couple of months, it might be that the antenna has taken in water. But anyway, so I've got a couple of issues then. I've got a little bit of time today, so I really need to sort of sort it out. And that's what I'm going to be doing on this video. Just going to take you through it. You know, it might help someone that possibly has the same sort of problems, but it might just for the amusement factor, really. Just is sort of all part of radio. You know, you will get problems. Nothing works entirely without any issues at all, indefinitely. And at some point, you're just going to have to work logically and try and work out what your problems are. And hopefully, that's what I'll be doing on this video. So thanks for coming along, and going to get on with it. So let's see if I can replicate the problem. It's worth noting, you know, look, in the mornings, absolutely really sort of zero noise, just a little flick on the S1 there on the meter. No noise at all this time in the morning. It's just gone about 7:30 in the morning. People are sort of, you know, going to work and things. But later on this afternoon, the noise level will creep up. So problem we've been getting, radio receiving absolutely fine, but when keying up, there we go. So SWR high, for some reason, just suddenly started doing that. It's been absolutely fine for weeks. So something's gone a little bit amiss. So what I'm going to do is, first thing is get a separate SWR meter and just see if I can read the SWR, find out what's going on. The radio does have, you can go into the menus and you can turn on, it has an SWR meter. You can also turn off the high SWR warning, which is not recommended at the moment whilst I've got this issue. But obviously I need to check it on a separate meter now, see if I can work out, just to be on the safe side, in case that needle goes right across into the red, that I may have picked up a direct short. As I say, the switch box is going to be my first kind of port of call for suspicions, but you don't want to be sort of keying up if you have got a direct short, and then you're going to heat up the radio very, very quickly, and cause some damage. So anyway, that's the first thing will be just to bring down another, I think I'd use the Satagi TM999 and see if I can get a proper SWR reading. Right, so I've just swapped over to the 6900 so I can take the 9900 out of the equation. I don't think that there is a problem with the 9900. I think it's something to do with the antenna or the switch box, but I just wanted to make sure it's not an internal issue with the 9900. So we've got the 6900 set up, we're on FM. I've switched it to SWR on the display, and I've also got the Satagi little meter involved there. Sorry about the lighting again, it's not exactly an ideal setup. However, when I key up, yeah, I've got a serious issue going on here. If you can see that, I know it's not very clear. So my SWR is going way over into the red, which backs up the high SWR warning on the 9900 and the fact the 9900 was cutting out. The reason this one isn't cutting out is that I've switched off the high SWR warning on the 6900. It comes on quite sort of early. Normally about 1.7 this will start sort of cutting out, which is a little bit low really. When you think about it, sometimes your SWR can go up a little bit higher than that, especially if you're mobile. So on the 6900 I actually have switched the SWR warning off. So right, I need to do some investigation then. Obviously I've got quite a serious problem that has just literally happened. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bypass the little cheap Chinese switch box that's in the shed. And that's my first suspicion. And also now it's light, because this happened when it was dark. We're going to go outside. I'm just going to have a quick inspection of the antenna because I mean a section may have fallen off. It's not been particularly windy in the last few days, but I haven't actually been outside and looked at it because it was dark. So we're going to go and do those two things, and then we're going to come back and test it. So looking up at the Antron 99, it's on a bit of a lean. That's quite normal really. But, you know, it all seems to be there, doesn't it? It's a bit difficult to see, but you know, I can't see that anything's changed other than the fact that it's very slightly leaning these days. But, no, it definitely seems to all be in place there. So obviously not that problem. So here's the little switch box that I've got here. Do you know, as I get sort of a little bit more experienced in this hobby, I'm getting more and more negative about switch boxes. They're convenient. Obviously I've got 3 feeds going off, one here in the shed, one in the proper loft shack, and then one into the living room. But you know, I sometimes think these are more trouble than they're worth. But as I say, something obviously has fouled quite sort of quickly, and it could be that. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to replace the sort of connection between the living room feed there and the antenna just with a little barrel connector, and that will completely remove the switch box from the equation. So there we go, simple as that. Just completely bypass the little cheap chinky switch box there. So just going to shoot back into the living room there, just check that SWR, and hopefully, you know, fingers crossed, we may have solved the problem, but I'm not convinced at this moment. Right, here we go then, moment of truth. No, exactly the same as before. No, there we go. So SWR of about sort of 6 or 7. So okay, it's not the switch box then. So we've we've eliminated the 9900. We've eliminated the switch box. And next thing I suppose to do would just be to check the sort of coaxial cable that's running to the antenna. And I mean, I don't understand why something would foul so sort of dramatically, so quickly. May have got trapped, or you know, a rodent or something chewing on it. I mean, it's a bit way out, but that's the next thing to check. And then if the cable's okay, obviously it could be sort of something perhaps with the antenna. Maybe it's got water ingress again. It's maybe sort of, you know, built up some water and that's got sort of shorted out the coil, something like that. But next thing to do will be to check the coax. So just going to be checking the cable here. It's relatively new. I fitted it last year. This is a RG Mini 8 sort of cable. That's the 58 there, and you can sort of see the Mini 8 is just that little bit sort of thicker. I didn't have room to put a 213 cable through the wall. This extension lead that I've used was sort of pre-cut, if you like, pre-soldered. I haven't done any of these solder joints here myself, and so I haven't really sort of played about with it, and it's been working absolutely fine. As I say, literally just this morning, you know, I was chatting on the 305, and was chatting for about sort of 5-10 minutes, and then it started cutting out, acting up very, very strange. So just going to have a quick look at the cable run outside, and if I see something I'll video it. So I can't really see anything. I mean, you know, the cable just sort of comes out here and sort of runs down, not the best insulation, sort of runs along, but I can't see how that could possibly change in a sort of a moment, but going to check it along the whole length of its run anyway. No, it looks absolutely fine. Sort of coming up here, going into the shack there, into the shed, just for the sort of switch box. So no, it looks absolutely fine. Can't see any abrasions, any sort of rodent sort of signs of chewing it. I can't imagine that would happen. Okay, so I think we can eliminate that the cable is undamaged. Maybe just need to eliminate that cable altogether in the setup and see if that makes any difference. Right, so here we are, set up in the shed, a little bit thrown together, but this was basically the setup that I ran all through the summer last year on the 6900, using the coaxial RG58 feed there. I've bypassed the switch again, so we're straight into it. So we know this setup works, but unfortunately, as you can see here, there you go, SWR is about 6. Which, you know, is pretty much getting on for a direct short there. And just about see that. So I've got an issue. You know, something has probably failed, maybe within the antenna. I don't know. Maybe I suspect that it could be waterlogged. There was water inside it before. I did make the drain hole slightly larger, but maybe it's sort of built up some sort of water. Can't see any damage to the outside of the antenna, wind damage or anything like that. So unfortunately it's going to be a question that I'm going to obviously have to at some point bring down the antenna, and I'm not going to be able to do it today, but yeah, I'm going to have to bring down the antenna and have a sort of a look at that. What I probably will do is I'll probably just put a multimeter just on the end of the coaxial cable plug there, just to make sure that that hasn't shorted. But I mean, obviously nothing was touched. It was working 1 minute and then next minute it wasn't, so you know, very unlikely that anything's been sort of disturbed there. So a bit annoying, frustrating. It might take me off air for a while. So I might not be putting up any CB videos for a little bit. I've got some other stuff to do anyway, but yeah, this could be thread off the air for a little bit until I get this sorted. But there you go, no point in crying about it, just gonna have to sort of get on with it, I guess. So I don't know how well you can see this. I'm a little bit struggling here really with the camera, but basically just doing a sort of continuity test on the antenna itself. Pleased to say that there's no direct short. So nothing's shorting out on the sort of perhaps the coaxial plug at the other end of the antenna. So it's a bit odd why we've suddenly gone up from an SWR right up to sort of 7. As I say, I suspect water possibly, but yeah, so that's where we are at the moment. Bit frustrating, bit disappointing. Not really the weather to start sort of bringing antennas down, but yeah, that's where we are. So I'll update you when I've made a little bit more progress.